Sup dudes, it's Snail. So as you guys know, Fallout London has been out for almost 2 weeks now, and many of us have had the chance to play it. I myself have been live streaming it here on YouTube. Team Folan has delivered an experience unlike any other I've had before in Fallout, and to a degree where it really does feel like I'm just playing another Fallout game. However, despite that, it is still a mod, and it's a mod for Fallout 4, meaning it still carries Fallout 4's gameplay loop. Loot, kill, explore. That means that junk loot does carry a significance in your gameplay. Of course, more loot means a fuller inventory, which in turn means you need somewhere to store it. But the question then becomes, where? Of course, settlements are much sparser than in the base game, and they can be really hard to find in London. But it's still nice to have one when you need it. And that's where this video is going to come in, because I've actually found all of the settlements in Fallout London, and I'm going to tell you where they are and how to access them today in this video. Just one thing before we move on, if this video helped you at all, make sure that you like and subscribe. I make videos like this all the time, you probably want to see more of them. If you have a friend in need who's a friend indeed, make sure you send this video to them so that they can also find a settlement where they can store all their junk. Now without further ado, let's get right into it. First, I think it's important that I share some background information about the settlements in Fallout London. So in total, there are 7 workshops in the game. 6 of these workshops are full-fledged settlements. You'll be able to build in them. They have a rather sizable build area, and you can invite settlers to come and live at your settlement. One of them is a player home in Camden, and I have no idea where that is because I don't live in London. Actually, I looked it up right after I was done recording, and here it is on the map. Now, I haven't unlocked the player home yet, so we won't look at it. Instead, we're going to look at the previously mentioned 6 full settlements, because those are probably going to be easier to get to for the early to mid game anyway. And we're going to start our list off with the London Bridge Settlement. This classic British settlement is home to a toll collector who charges 10 tickets to cross the bridge. Now, if you're not looking for a settlement here, you can just talk to him, pay him the 10 tickets, and be on your merry way across the bridge. However, if you are looking to make this place your settlement, you have to pass a couple of skill checks while you talk to him after choosing a specific option. When you pass these skill checks, he'll tell you a little bit more about himself, and then he'll also share why he's the toll collector on the London Bridge. Then he gives you a quest to complete, and in exchange for completing the quest, he'll give you access to the workshop on the London Bridge. Now, the quest itself for the bridge isn't terribly difficult, but it's whether or not you have the special attributes to initiate the quest to begin with that really matters. In order to begin the quest, you'll need a 6 in Charisma and an 8 in Intelligence. This does mean, of course, you're going to have to build or level your character into these. I mean, unless you want to take a shitload of chems just before talking to him. But the quest itself is decently fun and worth it in my opinion, even with the settlement out of the way. Speaking of the settlement, the build area is surprisingly roomy for the location, with the build area itself stretching from one junk gate over to the next one. There are mods to help you expand this build area, but for right now, I think this is decent for just about anybody who just wants a place to store their junk. Another benefit to the settlement is that it's placed fairly central in the map, so if you intend to do minimal fast traveling, it's probably pretty helpful to be dead smack in the center. Overall, a decent choice, and it's really not that far from the train crash at all when you consider things. Now, moving on to the next settlement, we're talking about Biggin Hill Airport. This is the second settlement in the game that'll make you take a quest line in order to access the workshop. And while London Bridge's quest was more like typical mercenary work, this quest actually has a really interesting and engaging story, as well as a fairly difficult and intriguing dungeon. So you can get to the airport by walking south to the Swan and Mitre, then continue until you get to Churchill Library, and after you're done with that, take a road west until you get to this strip of runway on the map. You should see a bunch of dudes around a bonfire and a tree person named High Priest Gordo. Speak to him, and that's going to initiate the quest. I don't really want to spoil this quest as it's truly one of my favorites, and I think everyone should enjoy it. So just go into it blind and immerse yourself because it really is a treat. Now, once that quest is completed, you'll get a cool new legendary weapon and access to the Biggin Hill Airport workshop. The settlement is a great blank slate, but doesn't have much in the way of scrap, so you're probably going to have to build it with scavenged materials. I like this settlement so much that I actually went the extra mile and I set up a shrine for the cute Cthulhu dolls, complete with spooky lighting and props. I still need to find some cloaks from the cultists just to complete it, but until then, this is what I've got going on. However, if big blank slates aren't your kind of thing, there is another option. Next stop is Lambeth Walk. This settlement is a mostly enclosed courtyard only steps away from the Imperial War Museum. The settlement itself can be difficult to build on, as the ground is quite uneven almost everywhere, but it does feature some tastefully placed pre-existing structures, as well as some ruined interiors from the nearby brick buildings. I'll be the first to admit, it's not my favorite settlement, but it is the first one on this list that doesn't ask you to complete a quest just to use the workshop. That's right, all you have to do to claim the settlement is to clear it of hostiles, and then you can access the workbench, which can be found in an aforementioned ruined interior. It's probably a good place for scrap storage, and there's a lot of nearby wood if you need to harvest it for anything, so this place does have its upsides and it's still worthy as a settlement. Lambeth Walk is a good choice for a spacious player home if you're not intending to bring any settlers over or build anything too crazy. You can definitely make the best of this settlement area. Though if you consider yourself a post-apocalyptic architect kinda like me, then our next settlement is probably for you. This is Vauxhall Grove construction site. Now while this is very sad and I'm sure a lot of real estate investors missed out on their investment, their loss is our gain here, as this newly minted affordable housing property provides a similarly even building space as Biggin Hill, but you can start building right away as the settlement doesn't ask you to finish a quest before accessing the workshop. To get there, you can actually head south from Lambeth Walk until you see this fence with a couple for rent signs. Go past the fence, turn left, and access the workbench in the trailer. Now it's time to get scrapping, as this settlement's biggest strengths is an abundance of scrap material within its borders. Barrels, steel galore, you'll be set with almost everything you're going to need in short order. Like literally, you can just walk around and start scrapping things like no one's business. And there's so much of it around, you're probably not going to need to bring loot with you. It also helps that the build area is expansive, with 8 pre-laid concrete foundations to build a thriving post-nuclear shantytown. It's a builder's dream, and possibly the best choice for any sort of impressive settlement building, or if you get Sim Settlements 2 working with Fallout London, which I've heard is compatible but I haven't tried it yet. We'll try in the near future. In any case, this is a strong contender for the use of that mod, so make sure you keep an eye out for the workshop. Okay, but say you're not satisfied yet, you're a little disappointed at the size of some of these settlements, even though they're actually fairly big. Well, there is one settlement that I think is going to knock your socks off. Get a load of this. From Vauxhall construction site, you're going to want to travel much further south, like almost to the southern edge of the map, and you'll find the Wandsworth Museum settlement. Now, it's not going to dawn on you right away, but once you unlock the workshop, you'll be able to get a grasp of just how much land you have to work with. This massive parcel of land is probably the largest settlement in all of Fallout London. I took a brief stroll of the perimeter and oh, holy shit, this is insane. What am I even going to build here? The Wandsworth Museum easily has the space to accommodate like 30 or 40 settlers with comfort and breathing room intact, and is probably also an insanely good choice if you want to use Sim Settlements 2 during your time in London. Now, my favorite part about this settlement is the sheer number of settings you have to build with. For example, there's fenced-in areas where you could probably build a tiny little shanty town. There's the underside of a power transformer, the inside of some bleachers, a second story to that interior, by the way, right above it, and it probably makes a great player home, an outdoor parking lot, and tons of walkway. This is without a doubt the biggest canvas to work with in the entirety of Fallout London. And if bigger means better for you, this is where you want to build. Check out Wandsworth Museum, I highly recommend it. And last but very much not least, this final settlement can be found across the Thames River. It is called Covent Garden. Now, Covent Garden is a little bit tricky to get to because it's actually a world space within the Fallout London world space. If you go east from Trafalgar and then you turn left at the double-decker bus and go down the alleyway, you'll eventually come to this metal door in a junk fence that reads Covent Garden. If you enter that, you're going to have to fight quite a few raiders in order to unlock the Covent Garden workshop, but once you do, it's very much worth it, since Covent Garden is unique in a way that pretty much no other settlement is capable of emulating. For one, it's a private world space, so I really don't think you ever have to worry about being invaded or having to fight off anybody, and while most of the building space is taken up by this lovely old building, it does have a lot of interiors to work with. You can retrofit these interiors and turn this into a shopping mall and clean the place up a bit, as much of this clutter on the floor is actually scrappable object. Covent Garden has a really unique flavor, and it's perfect for builders who want just enough space to support a town, but don't really want to bother too much with building junk structures and stuff like that. It's a retrofitter's dream. Settlement size, despite being mostly taken up by that building, like I said earlier, is well laid out enough that you can probably do something fairly impressive and aesthetic with the space. Either way, this is a mid-investment settlement with a very high payoff, and I can't recommend it enough, especially if you have a thing for Roman columns. Anyways, that's everything for now. Thank you guys for watching. These are all the settlements that you can find in Fallout London, minus the player home in Camden. Which one did you like the most? Is there one you're looking forward to building? Me personally, I've been mostly building on Biggin Hill Airport, as I'm sure you can tell, but I'd love to find something to do with Wandsworth Museum, since I think it really is a challenge just waiting to be undertaken. Otherwise, before I go, I'd like to thank the channel members. Thank you guys so much for making these videos possible. Really appreciate it. You guys are the best. And if you're brand new here, make sure you like the video, and if you're feeling generous, subscribe. In the meantime, I'm Snail. Take care, brush your hair. I will see you later. Peace, dudes.